Thank you. It's good to see everybody. You know, especially since I just had a stroke a few months ago, it's better to be seen than viewed. So I'm much better off being seen than viewed. You know, in the South, and I do this in person mostly, so you'll have to excuse me. It's a little different doing it on Zoom. So because I usually have my overalls on and do this kind of in character kind of thing. But you know, when people greet each other in the South, people are especially friendly. You know, they assume they know each other. They just you pass on the street, and there are several ways. Like for example, how do you greet in the South? What are some of the greetings that are distinctive to the South? Well, one is like, how do you do? That's no one. How are you? And the response sometimes is, I'm just middling or fairly middling. You know, why don't you sit down and stay still? And also, you might say, well, how y'all doing? And they response in the South might, oh, about as well as common. And also, one thing that I do is, what are you up to these days? And the Southern response might be, oh, about as much as the law will allow. And so those are some of the things that we see that are kind of unique to the South. And
you kind of froze up there.
My name is Jim Langley through most of my adult life, but my actual name is Jimmy, Jimmy Langley. And it's a Southern thing too, because my brothers, Johnny, and my cousins are Bobby and Larry, and you know, they name kids nicknames instead of the official name. So my birth certificate name is Jimmy. So I'm sorry. Today we're going to talk about you know, the Southern things, and in Old English, my last name Langley, raging bull. And so that kind of goes to my talk here is on a bull horns, you got and you got a point on the other side of the horn, but right in the middle, there's a lot of, so I'm going to be feeding you a few points, but a lot of bull also. So it's hopefully it'll be entertaining and something we'll enjoy. I was raised in West Alabama in Lamar County. Has a population of about 15,000 people, and it's what we call in Alabama a dry county. And dry county, of course, means they don't sell any alcohol. So a lot of people, the 15,000 people on weekends, the population goes down a few thousand because Lowndes County, Mississippi, which is next door to Lamar County, is wet. So about all the drinking people go over to Lowndes County during the weekend. And my hometown is Vernon. It's the county seat. It's about between 2,000 and 3,000.
Yeah, Jim, it's cutting in and out.
And my wife, she's from Nashville, Tennessee, city girl, home to my mother. My mother said, "Are you sure you want to marry a city girl?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I've hung around her too long now, and I kind of fell for her, so I guess it's too late to stop." So let me tell you just a little about Vernon. Vernon is just a little, as we say in the South, a little bitty town. There are only about 3 red lights, and as you go through town, and there's, as you see on the slide, there's a courthouse, which is bottom left. So you have a square like you do in many southern towns. You see that we have the old Lamar Theater has been turned into the Backstreet Opry, where on Saturday night come together with a where all the people get up and play their country songs, and it's all free. So we also, the biggest attraction in town, downtown, is the antique mall, which is fairly big. And the house, nice house on the upper level, that's Ann Northington's house. She is the lady who makes the gowns for Miss America and Miss Alabama. So she lives right there in Vernon. And we have several, like Dan Penn is a famous songwriter from there. But probably the most famous person, or infamous person we have is from Lamar County and from Vernon, who's actually buried in the same cemetery as my dad and mom, is an outlaw called Rube Burrow. Rube Burrow was in the 1880s. He was in the same class as Jesse James, and they were the same out in Oklahoma and Texas, and even some places back in this area. He robbed a lot of trains, and he was really famous. And he would come back to Lamar County to hide out, and all the people there who he was kin to and knew the family to hide him out when he came back. And unfortunately, in about somewhere like 1800s, he was caught up with down in Linden, Alabama, down South Alabama. And after several jailings and escapes, he got in a confrontation with the sheriff, and it ended up that the sheriff shot him and killed him. Well, they put him on a train back to Lamar County. And when they got to Birmingham, they stopped in Birmingham. And as you see in the picture, this is an actual picture, they took him off of the train. They put him up beside the train in his wooden coffin. They posed him with his gun and his other Western gear, and they took this picture. So it was a big deal back then to take pictures of dead outlaws. So this was the picture they took. So you'll see that it is just a small town. They have a food pantry. The only two businesses and only two large businesses in town are the Marathon, which makes dumpsters for Walmart, the packing dumpsters. And somebody said the only other large business is Aunt Grace, who was a very large Avon lady. So that was the only two large businesses in town. And I heard somebody say one time that the streets were so narrow that if a dog walked down, it had to wag its tail up and down. It couldn't go sideways. Now, a lot of the politicians there, you know, in Lamar County, we do have a reputation in the Alabama small towns of having some kind of shady politicians, and most of our politicians only serve 2 terms. The first term in office, and then the second term, they usually do that Federal Correctional Institution up in Springville. So that's unfortunately the way small town politics are. Now, Lamar County and Vernon is a very religious town. As in most towns, Lamar County, the highest church, you know, some people have the Episcopals and other high churches. In Lamar County, the highest church we have is Methodist. We have Methodist, we have Baptist, and we have Church of Christ, and a scattering of Pentecostal. We don't have anything higher, so to speak, than those 3. Now, some people said, you know, Baptist church are very plentiful, and you have all kinds of different Baptist churches. My dad belonged to a Free Will Baptist church. I didn't understand the differences back then, still don't. But the Free Will Baptists, the one thing I did understand is they believed in backsliding, whereas the Southern Baptists believed in once saved, always saved. So that was the difference. Then you had the Missionary Baptists. You had the Hardshell Baptists, which didn't pay their preachers. And so in Baptist, you know, so many Baptist churches, you throw a rock and you hit a dog or a Baptist church. It was all kinds of, and the Baptist church had a habit of getting into disputes, and then they would split. So that's one reason you had so many Baptist churches in the little town.
Jim, the people are having a little difficulty hearing you. Can you either get closer to the mic or?
Okay. Well, okay, is that any better?
Yeah, I think so. And maybe just maybe a little bit slower too, you know.
Okay. Well, there were any questions that anybody had? Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, a few years ago, I started collecting Southern sayings. I was intrigued by a lot of the things. In fact, when I was younger, there were guys that I was around that no matter what the situation was, they always had this catchy Southern saying that they would put out there that I always was impressed with. And I noticed that as we went toward a non-agricultural society, that people were losing a lot of those Southern expressions. So I started capturing some of those and writing them down, and just so I would have something maybe in my back pocket to return when somebody was saying something and I wanted to say something that was interested and cutesy. So that was my motivation. And we have a unique Southern heritage, and I wanted to preserve some of that. So I saved all these sayings, and I put them in a book that Southern sayings that I published, self-published. Now, a lot of you probably are maybe from farms or agricultural areas, and some of you are not. So those who are not may not understand some of these things or some of the references I say, so I apologize for that. But in the South, even mules have their own language. Now, those of you who are from the South know that if you have a mule, if you say giddy up, it goes. If you say whoa, it stops. If you say gee, it goes to the right. If you say haw, it goes to the left. So that's standard language for a mule in the South. But sometimes people throw a wrench in gears, and I had an uncle down in Lamar County who every year participated in the Mule Day at Winfield, Alabama. And one year, as he was getting ready to participate, his mule died. And so he put out the search for a new mule, and they couldn't find one in time. The only one left was this Pentecostal preacher up in North Alabama had a mule for sale. So he went up to look at the mule, took his wagon up and pulled it behind pickup. And he went and asked the preacher how much he wanted. And the preacher said, "You don't want this mule because it doesn't act right. It doesn't obey the commands that you're used to." Said it has a different set of commands. If you want it to go, you say hallelujah. If you want to stop, you say amen. If you want it to go right, you say John. If you want it to go left, you say Matthew. Well, the preacher said, "Well, I need to test drive it and see if I can, my uncle drive it and see how I can do with it." My uncle's getting on in years and had a memory problem. So as he was hooking up the mule and taking off on his wagon, he was going in Alabama. We have a lot of hollows and, drop offs. So he started down this steep hill, and the wagon got to going really, really fast. And it looked like he was going off the side of the road, and so it's going faster and faster, and he's almost going. He started saying "whoa, whoa, whoa," and of course he wasn't remembering that that the horse or mule didn't respond to "whoa." So it kept going, and he was almost running off, and so he started praying, "Lord, Lord, help this old boy! Don't let me die." And he said, and he said, "Praise the Lord, hallelujah." And the horse just almost jumped off the cliff. And then he said, Amen, Lord, and it stopped. So he saved him, but that horse didn't speak the normal language. A lot of people don't speak the normal Southern or other language. Now, so I collected all these things from people on my friends and on TV and everywhere else. I would jot down notes that would remind me of Southern sayings. I'm going to kind of go over just presenting a few of my collection of Southern sayings. And, you know, some people would just like to have something in their back pockets of saying of wisdom. They're, you know, old country sayings, especially Southerners, have just a way to convey meanings better than just plain words or just plain speech. To just have a catchy, humorous thing. I have a story about my brother and I were a little different. He was 15 years older than me, and politically we were a little far apart. He always, because I went to college, he always called me a pointy-headed liberal because some of my views might have been a little more liberal than his because he was very far to the right. So I said, you know, Albert said, I can't be a liberal because there's no such thing as a liberal redneck. And he said, well, I said, because if it were, that would be an oxymoron, which would be, he said, well, I don't know about the oxy, but I know you're a moron. So there are things that convey things that, you know, like oxymorons are used a lot. Like we say, mighty little, that's a mighty little woman. This is awfully good food. That lady's pretty ugly. So there's a lot of oxymorons in Southern language. Now, it doesn't matter if a person is lazy, fat, stupid, good looking. Southerners have a phrase or a word to describe them. Like, you know, it could be, the words could be as clean as a hound's tooth, or it could be as dirty as 11 kittens that couldn't lick them clean. So there are a lot of different sayings that convey a lot of different messages. Now, a couple of years ago, there was a national poll put out by a large national newspaper. It rated Alabama as having the most, the best, most eloquent, sexy, I guess, voice that in the nation. And so John Archibald took that up and he commented on it. And he said, you know, that in the South, you know, most talk about bless your heart. Now, bless your heart, because not Southerner, it sounds good. It sounds like you're trying to bless somebody. But if you tell somebody bless your heart, it means, lady, man, I'm sorry, you know, you're just dumb as everything. You know, you don't understand it. So it's not a good thing to say bless your heart in most cases. It's kind of talking down to the person. Now, it says that it sounds good, but it's always kind of not too good. Now, he called me after that. I met John, and he called me, and because he had got a copy of my book, and he said, you know, tell me what you think about it. I said, well, I quoted one of the sayings in my book. I said, if leather was brains, you couldn't saddle a bed bug. And, you know, and he asked a couple things. One is, who do you think? And I said, well, I think some of the sexiest talk, in my experience in the past, has been when I stopped at a truck stop back in the old days, and the waitresses who had been there forever would come up and they would call you honey and darling and sweetheart. You know, I said, that was pretty sexy language to me. And there was a story, though, about the Ain't That Nice. And the story is there were two old ladies sitting on the porch, and one lady looked at the other one. She said, Mavis said, how did you like my fur coat the other day? And Mavis said, well, ain't that nice? That was really nice. And she said, then Madge said, look out there in the driveway. That Cadillac car said, don't, my husband just gave me that just because I'm good. And she said, Mavis said, well, ain't that? And so she also pointed out a nice diamond ring that she had. And she said, yeah, my husband gave me that for our anniversary. It's like 4 carats. Mavis said, well, ain't that nice? And so Madge said, well, Mavis, what did your husband give you? And Mavis said, well, he sent me to Birmingham to this Southern Charm School. And what we learned is, instead of saying that's a bunch of bull, we say, well, ain't that nice? So, that's one of the Southern traits that we have that's kind of a different from other. Now, there's a lot of Southern sayings that have different meanings. For example, I'll see y'all then, good Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise. Now, all my life, my childhood, what I thought was God willing, and Yellow Creek, which is the creek that ran through Lamar County, I was thinking, okay, the water got up too high across the bridges and stuff. So if it didn't rain too much and the water didn't get up, we'd see you. Well, actually, that's not the meaning of that saying at all. Back during the Creek Indian War, the Indian Indian pointed over the Indians, he was called to Washington, and he wrote a letter up to Washington saying, I'll be there, God willing, and the creeks don't rise up. So he was talking about the Creek Indians and not the creeks, Yellow Creek. So that's one thing. Another saying that may have a different meaning is, he's as happy as a dead pig in sunshine. Now, you take that, you can see a dead pig, but you think it's not appropriate to say a dead pig is happy. But what that really means is, when you kill a hog or a pig and it lays out in the sun bakes down on that pig's skin, and the skin starts drawing up. That skin will do, all the water will go out. And as it draws up, it pulls the mouth back, the skin comes back on the mouth, and you see the pig's teeth. So it looks like he's laughing. So it looks like, so the saying comes as happy as a dead pig in sunshine. Now, another thing, when you get up in the morning and you're all grouchy, some people used to say, well, you got up on the wrong side of the bed. Well, which is the right side of the bed? Which one is. So the right side of the bed is the right side, because in the old days, left was a word that meant, actually in Latin, left is sinister. And so left has always had a connotation of not being right thing. It's not the right side of the bed. Now, some other meanings that I think are important is people back when I was a kid saying, you're such a smart aleck. I'm sure most of you have heard that before. Well, we gave that a little attention because this goes right over your head. Well, there was actually a guy named Alec, who was a historical figure that in New York, and Alec came to New York as a poor person, and he got rich by getting into gambling, drinking, bars, prostitution, all those kind of things. He got to be very rich. One of the reasons he got rich is that he paid off the police, and the police didn't bother his enterprises. So he got very wealthy. But then Alec, as he grew in power, and just like a lot of people in power, he thought he was kind of above the law. So he quit paying the police people to look the other way. Once he did that, the police said, well, he's not such a smart aleck after all, because we're going to bust him. And they did. And they made him a poor guy. So there was an aleck in back in the old days. And, I was intrigued at one point. One thing in the South, it says the people and poor people say the rich people are eating high on the hog. Well, the reason they say high on the hog is that's, the poor people eat the feet and the hocks and everything else, but rich people eat the hams and the shoulders, which are the higher part of the pig. So that's why they live high on the hog, because they eat the good part. Now, I was in England, and I got to thinking about, somebody says, why do people kill pigs, but they eat pork? And why do they kill cows, but they eat beef? So that was a good question. The reason given was that pigs were when the French came and took over in Europe, and a lot of the slaves were English. Well, a pig in French is porquet. So the poor people would serve, they would eat pig meat, and the French would eat porquet or pork. And also the cows, they would also kill the cows, and the cows to the French, and drawing a blank here. Excuse me, I just had a stroke, so I don't have a memory lapse every once in a while. But they eat these steaks, but they kill a cow. So the different terms we have for pork and beef. Now, chicken was the meat of the lower class. So chicken really didn't have another name, except sometimes they called it poultry. But different reasons they have. It's because of French influence in England. When William the Conqueror came over, he brought all this French influence, and they changed the name. Now, also, you've heard probably a term that says this guy was as drunk as Cooter Brown. And actually, there was historically, according to some, a figure called Cooter Brown. He was he owned a cabin on the Mason-Dixon line during the Civil War. He didn't want to go to the south or to the north, so he stayed in his cabin the entire war and basically drank himself to death. So he was known as one of the biggest drunkards. So if somebody saw somebody else drinking, he said they would say, yes, he's as drunk as Cooter Brown over there. Now, another interesting thing is sometimes, you may take a break, and you may get your newspaper, and you may go sit on the john to read it. That was the term we used. And you might ask yourself, well, why did they call it john? Well, the guy that invented the flush toilet back in I think it was 1760s or whatever it was, his name was John Crapper. So therefore a toilet became known as a john. And another interesting thing to me as far as names and terms go is how does food get its name? Like Snickers bars. Why do they call Snickers? Well, it just so happens that the guy over the Mars Candy Company back in those days had a racehorse named Snickers. So when they came up with the candy bar, that's how he named it Snickers. Now, Little Debbie was the granddaughter of the guy that up in Chattanooga that makes the Little Debbie snack foods. And so he was coming up with a name, and somebody came in, and he had his daughter, a little redheaded girl, on his desk, a picture of her. And some people said, well, why don't you just call them Little Debbie's? And so he did. Unfortunately, he didn't tell her mother that that's what was happening. So her mother didn't find out till the first packaging actually came out. One of my favorites, and I've heard a couple of stories, but is Goo Goo Clusters. Now, where did that come from? Well, the story I heard was back in Nashville in the early days, as the Grand Ole Opry, there was people that brought food to sell out front. One of the things that somebody brought in their cellophane wrap, candy with chocolate, caramel, and peanuts. They sold it out there in front of the Grand Ole Opry, and it got to be very popular. Somebody took it up, and then they started manufacturing it and producing it. So GOO stands for GOO stands for the Grand Ole Opry. So which supposedly is the first place that that had been sold. So some different names. Now, Larry talked about the name of the book. Well, when I was thinking about Southern sayings, I was thinking, well, what I named the book, what I named the character, I guess, that I'm talking about is a lot to just demonstrate some of the Southernisms that I've said. So I looked in the on the internet and I get some popular redneck names. And one of the ones that it said was most popular was Del. And so it's, you know, I think of Del Monte, which is a name of a fruit, but Delmont was chose. Well, some will say, was he a real person? And I said, well, yes and no. He's real in the sense he represents a lot of the good old boys that I knew in Lamar County. Some maybe my own traits, my cousin's traits, my best friend and schoolmates. So in a sense, he is real, but really he is not. He's just imaginary. I think of he's no cotton picking, snuff dipping, tobacco chewing, stump jumping, coffee pot dumpling eating, frog gigging, Alabama redneck. That's kind of what I think of Delmont. So that's kind of what I was thinking when I wrote the book. Now, some of the sayings I'm going to go through now is what I imagine to say in response to some of these. So, for example, you know, to say age is relative, here's what Delmont might say. It might say, some men want a BMW. I don't care about the W. And he said, some people might say, you might see this on a t-shirt at Cracker Barrel. I've seen it all. I've done it all. I've heard it all. I just can't remember it. And I kind of relate to this right now. And I also relate to this one. Getting old ain't. The more you complain, the more God will make you longer. God will make you live. You may not know that, but the more you complain, the more you'll be around. So, and then Belmont, he's a Southerner. So people claim that Southerners are slow. Sometimes they say that slowness sometimes is not only our talk, but maybe our thinking process. But I think like George Wallace used to say, you know, it's good to talk slow and make people think you're not as smart as them. That way you have an advantage over them if they don't think you're as you are. But anyway, he was as slow as molasses in wintertime. Now, I don't know how many people have looked at molasses or syrup or something in the winter, how it will hardly come out of the jar or something. It says he was moving so slow that dead flies wouldn't fall off of him. So you can imagine that that's pretty slow. People would also say because of that slowness, of course, that he was dumb, but he was one of those people who acted dumb, but he had this innate sense of, of knowledge about common sense things. And one of the things is about being dumb is that if his brains was water, he couldn't baptize a flea. And another one is talking about a train, that the gates are down, the lights are flashing, but the train ain't coming. And who skipped a few grades in school said his folks had to burn down the schoolhouse for him to get out of fourth grade. So it's one of those deals where, you know, it just describes the kind of the Southern humor. Now,
Yeah, froze up, Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy, yeah, you froze up.
You may have to call him, Larry. He might not be hearing anything either.
Yeah. Probably got a bad internet connection there. Okay, folks, let me dial him up and see what's going on. Give me a second here.
Hi, this is Jim. Thanks for calling. Leave a message and I'll get back as soon as I can. Thanks. Have a good day.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Yeah, Jimmy, we lost your feed. I think you lost the internet connection. Give me a call or yeah, give me a call back when you can. Okay, bye. Well, I had to leave a voice message. He's probably isn't even aware that we lost him. Sorry about that, folks. But were you able to hear him better as he got closer to the mic and everything? Got a little better.
Yeah, but he was still cutting out periodically.
Yeah.
He didn't have a very good connection.
I think.
There he is.
He's calling me back. Hey, Jim.
Okay, am I back on yet?
Yeah, well, we lost you. Let me see. I don't think you're back on yet. No.
I see some things coming back on the screen. I don't know if it's my internet or the other internet. So
I don't see your picture, and you're muted on the screen too. I mean, I see your name there, but it's blank and it's muted. So you must have an internet problem. Huh?
I don't know if it's mine or
Yeah,
okay.
Because yeah, now I hear you on there. Whoops, I did and I don't.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
You're coming in and out.
Well, I tell you, we could try this if you wanted. Can you, Jim, are you still on the phone?
Yeah, I'm still on the phone too. Yeah.
Does this come across to y'all, just his phone?
Yeah. Well, we're hearing him. I think it's on the internet, but we don't have a picture.
Oh.
But we can hear him.
well,
Why don't you go ahead and just keep talking and just won't have your slides, I guess. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty bad, but maybe it'll come back. So let me. Okay, it's kind of reverberating for me. Is it for y'all too?
Yeah, I don't even see you. Let me see here.
Well,
Yeah, you can see his name.
Came back on. You came back on. Hit your video button. Maybe the video is still muted.
no, it says I can't start video. I don't know if it's a bandwidth or something. Like I said, this is a new house. I don't know how much internet. Anyway,
Try unmuting yourself, and maybe you can talk with the folks.
No, we can hear him, I think.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna hang
Yes.
up the phone, Larry. Well, okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe seeing me is not that important anyway. Anyway, we were at the bad habits of like a feather bed. Well, how many of you's grandmother had a feather bed? Anybody? Well, this saying has a lot of roots. My grandmother had a feather bed, and my wife and I used to go, and we would go spend the night. And those of you who are familiar with a feather bed, we would each get on our own side, but a feather bed is so giving that once you get on it and turn just a little, both of you go to the center, like just a roller coaster, just right down to the middle. So once you go down to the middle, trying to get out of there, especially, I don't think I could do it at my age. So a feather bed is hard to get out of, and that's what it's talking about here. And my slide's not changing. I got bandwidth issues or something here.
Yeah, we don't have a picture of you. We don't have the picture at all.
Oh, you don't have the slides either?
No,
No.
we can't see anything except your name.
Okay. This is frustrating.
You could try hit the share again and try it again to see if it'll come back up.
Okay. Well, mine is kind of frozen up now too, so.
Well, just go ahead without it, Jimmy. Yeah, it's all right.
Well, my slides aren't going, so I may have to go to my I know this is
Maybe what we could do here, Jimmy, is open it up for people to ask. You know, people might have questions about their favorite saying or what it means. You want to do that for a little bit?
oh, we could, yeah.
So if anybody's got a favorite saying, Southern saying, why don't you just ask Jimmy what he knows about it? You'll have to unmute yourself. Everybody's muted right now.
Well, I've heard a lot, dumber than a post.
Well, there's several things okay, have you ever heard as dead as a doornail?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's the story behind that, because in the old days, they when they built doors out of the big wood, they would put spikes in there, but they called them nails. And so when they drove the nails into the big doors, and they go on the other side, and they would bend them down on the other side to keep them from coming out. Once you bent a nail down, then it couldn't be used again. So they said it was dead. So when somebody says they're dead as a doornail, that is referring to the fact that somebody bent it over and it couldn't be used again. And of course, dumb as a post just kind of reflects the fact, that it's saying like your head's made out of wood, or you can't think. So
I got something. Have you ever, my father used to say, a penny for your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I had something on that one time, but penny for your thoughts. I don't know if that has any hidden meanings or not. It's just as a transaction of it could be the fact that a penny is not much. So maybe they don't think your thoughts are worth very much.
Okay.
Of course, back when that came up, penny was probably bought a lot more than it does today. So maybe it was just saying, I'll pay you to hear what you're thinking, or to know what.
Yeah, I think that's pretty forthright. But there's always sometimes hidden meanings things. I love to do those. Like I said, I'm kind of locked up here, so I can't get to any of my other things. Well, again, think of something that maybe you have a question about. Okay, how about he was running faster than a scalded dog. You can just imagine that. Scalded dog would be running toward the creek. So he would, several things that represent how fast somebody's going. Faster than lightning down a breeze lightning rod. So there are a lot of things about being fast.
I don't know if this is a Southern saying, but they say you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah, that's more of that's kind of a universal saying. Is you can't do something for somebody; they got to do it for themselves, kind of thing. It has a good meaning, and I Southerners do use it. So that would be a good Southern saying.
Hey, there's another saying that you can lead a boy to college, but you can't make him think.
Well, that happened to me at least the first 2 years. It usually takes a while for them to get around to thinking. So, and I tell you, let's see. Let me get my book and I'll run through there.
While we're waiting for Jimmy to come back, just a reminder that tomorrow's talk was canceled, so no need to check in tomorrow. We'll see everybody again next week. We have the Monday meeting, of course, and every Monday for those who want to join in. And then we have a talk on the Alabama rivers next Wednesday. Hope you can make it for that one.
Okay, Larry, the only thing I might do if I can do is to go off and try to come back in. Of course, I may not be able to. Well, let's see. Somebody name me a subject that, like, for example, here's some sayings for lazy. One of the sayings for lazy is, he was born tired and raised lazy.
Say that one again.
He was born, well, it's Southernese, but he was born tired and raised lazy. This is, I don't know if you ever heard anybody kiddingly say, I can't do that because I got a bone in my leg. The sun don't shine on the sleeping dog's hind end. He ain't got the ambition God gave an earthworm. Larry was too lazy to yell "phooey" in a pig pen. Do it yourself. I didn't take you to raise. Those are some of the things. Okay, give me a subject and I'll try to give you some of the things out of the book. How about
how about positive for things like, you know, she's pretty?
Pretty, okay. Got these things. No, I'm sorry. This is pretty. Okay. Here, well, let me found one that said, this is as tired. He was, no, that's one I just said. Have you heard anybody say they're slap dab worn out or something like that? And he said, just plumb tired, running on exhaustion fumes.
Yeah.
I'm so tired, I feel like a mashed bug. Just bring me a chair and call me a sack of potatoes. I'm tired. Again, sorry, it's awful.
It's all right, Jimmy.
Larry, I'm gonna this probably just didn't work, and I'm gonna try to get off and come back in if that's okay.
Yeah, we're almost at the end anyway. You could kind of just wrap it up, I think, at this point.
I'll tell you, I'll give you this. Once we were able to get back together again,
I'll
actually do this in person and do it right.
Yeah, well, that's an idea for next fall or winter, is bring you back. We'll be in person next year, God willing, and the creeks don't rise. So thank you, Jimmy, for it was good. I'm sorry we had the technical troubles, but I think everybody got a kick out of some of those.
I apologize. You know, like I said, I'm just getting set up in this new house, and I don't have the bandwidth that I had in my old house, so it could be me. I don't know what the internet was doing. So
yeah, no, don't worry about it. And we've had other people with technical problems. You're not the first person.
So anyway, it brings to mind another saying, however, that comes to my mind, and that is blank happens.
Well, you know, and applying it to the Murphy's Law, it happens at the worst possible time.
Yeah, we'll try to get you back in person, okay?
Yeah, I think that would be better. I mean, like I said, it's fun. I could go through, but it'll be very awkward to keep going, I think. So I really appreciate the invite, and I would be glad to do it if you want me to.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy.
And I
All
would
right,
also, there's some other historical presentations I'll talk to you about I could do too. So,
okay,
all right.
great. Thank you.
Y'all. Thank y'all. Sorry about that.
Folks, we'll reconvene next either on Monday morning for Monday meeting with those who want to join, or next Wednesday. And until then, be sure you get in your reservations for the picnic. I think its deadline is Monday. So we'll see you all next week.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.